Welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Craig, before we get into today's show, we have breaking news, and we mean breaking right now as in the last hour. Out of McKinney, Texas, a Collin County jury has found Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. What we know right now is that the murder trial began jury selection on June 1st in Collin County, and today, June 9th, the jury returned a guilty verdict for murder. They have immediately moved on to the sentencing phase of this trial. They are in the process of that right now. They already had the jury sequestered. That's the next step in this. They could have waited, or they could move straight into it. What we know right now is he is facing anywhere from 5 years to 99 years at this point. I understand that the defense only put one witness on during the sentencing phase, that being Karmelo Anthony's mother. And then the prosecutors will have the ability to put their case on. I believe they're probably doing that right now. If any news comes in while we're on the air, we will obviously let you know. But that is late breaking news as we were getting ready to come on the air. And again, Karmelo Anthony has been found guilty of murder in the fatal stabbing of a Frisco student, Austin Metcalf. Any other news, we will let you know as well. Craig, good to have you in the chair as always on this Tuesday evening. We've got a packed show, as we always tend to do, and we will get right into it. Late Monday evening, around 3 a.m. in the morning, local time, near the coast of Oman, a U.S. Army AH-64 Apache attack helicopter went down in the waters near the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 soldiers on board, and they were patrolling regional waters as part of Operation Epic Fury, the U.S. military campaign to enforce the ongoing blockade of Iran and protect commercial shipping in one of the most dangerous maritime choke points on the planet. U.S. Central Command confirmed both soldiers were rescued within approximately 2 hours. Both are in stable condition. The cause of the crash, whether Iranian fire or mechanical failure, is under active investigation. However, as we were going on the air, President Trump made a statement saying that it was caused by Iran. I believe
fire. Yeah, Iranian fire.
Iranian fire, and that there will be repercussions because of it, and that's what we know. And what we also know, and what we know right now, and the most important thing is that 2 soldiers are alive. Craig, an Apache goes down at 3 a.m. This is now the second rescue mission that we've had trying to rescue American soldiers that have been downed. 2 soldiers are in the water. It's dark. First thing that goes through your mind, and what did you find out when you were reviewing what happened in this particular operation?
Well, I wanted to paint a mental image in my head and see what the conditions were, because a lot of times you think the ocean water is really cold, like 45 degrees. You got to get them rescued in minutes. Well, in this case, in the Strait of Hormuz, because it's so, it's not very deep at all. It's not shallow, but it's not deep. The water is about 88 or 89 degrees year round.
Wow.
There was no wind. The waves were 1 foot to 1.5 foot, 12 to 18 inches tall. The phase of the moon at 3 in the morning, their time, was about 38% brightness. So meaning it was almost pitch black, pitch black sky. There's no light pollution like we have here in America. I mean, it's just pitch black. So, and of course there's one other thing when you're in the ocean always to contend with: sharks.
Right.
And so I looked up what kind of sharks are in the Strait of Hormuz, because it's shallow water, thinking, there's not going to be any great whites there anyway.
Right.
But they're whale sharks, but those are filter feeders. Those things are giant. And then there's tiger sharks, bull sharks, black tip sharks, hammerheads, nurse shark, sandbar, spot tail. But
none of those sound good.
Yeah, even though they're dangerous sharks out in open water, because of all the vessels traveling through there, the shallow water, regular boats and big giant, 3 million barrel oil tankers.
Right.
It's rare to run across a shark attack in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
So that's good. So just wanted to paint that picture of what our aviators were in water. They weren't, they were like in a giant swimming pool, basically.
Right. Well, what makes the story not just another war update? Military officials told CBS News the two crew members were rescued by a sea drone. Now, this is the first time we've heard of a rescue by sea drone. It's the first of its kind.
First ever.
First such operation ever carried out by the U.S. military, and to my knowledge, any other military. The surface drone found the soldiers in the water, picked them up, transported them to another location on the water, and then a helicopter hoisted them to safety. Previous recovery methods have always depended entirely on manned vessels or aircraft. Monday's rescue was a clear departure from everything that came before it. And the whole operation from crash to rescue took less than 2 hours, which is just mind boggling. I want to make sure our listeners feel the weight of first ever, Craig. The U.S. military has used drones for decades in the air or on land, underwater, but using an unmanned surface vessel, which is what you're seeing on
It
this.
looks like PT-109 from the 60s.
Sure does. Actually pull living soldiers out of the water in a real world combat environment. That has never happened before. So how big of a moment is that from a military perspective as well?
Well, not being a military guy, but talking to lots of military guys at the restaurant. Anytime you can send less soldiers in to make a rescue,
Absolutely,
it's a good thing. So this boat, when I read up on this boat, this drone boat, it could actually be controlled from the United States via satellite.
Right.
So there's no men there. It finds and here's the other problem. Because it's dark, you would think they could fly with helicopters with thermal cameras, or this would have thermal cameras when you show the front part of this boat, the next picture, it's got all those thermal things on it in the middle. It's hard to differentiate a 98.6 human in 89-degree water. It's hard to see.
Yeah.
So obviously, just like the pilot that was rescued, they had GPS things on their body that it could track them down. Surely that's how fast it found them, because, 2 hours, that's amazing. Hop on the boat, then the boat's guided to an area where it's safe for an Apache or something to come get them and lift and hoist them up like you described,
Right.
and take them back to an aircraft carrier. It's just phenomenal. We risk the two pilots were rescued. We didn't risk any manpower to go get them, and then we had two helicopter pilots in a safe area flying back. So it was one helicopter, one boat to rescue two guys.
Much different than the activities earlier in April when we got the two pilots there, or the one pilot there. The rescue was carried out by a vessel belonging to Task Force 59. That is the U.S. Navy's unmanned and AI unit based with the 5th Fleet in Bahrain. Task Force 59's best-known vessel is the L3 Harris Arabian Fox Mast 13, a 43-foot fast craft with a top speed above 40 knots. It was the Mast 13 that made the Navy's first unmanned transit of the Strait of Hormuz back in April of 2023, drawing the attention of the Iranian drone and a fast attack boat along the way. The specific vessel used in Monday's rescue has not been confirmed, but here is the remarkable thing about this story. The Task Force 59 was always sold as a sensor platform, eyes and ears, surveillance, if you will. Nobody was pitching it as a search and rescue unit. But on Monday night, a surveillance asset did a search and rescue job, and it did it faster than a crewed response likely could have ever done it, because you would have had too many people on board, and you have to protect them, and you have to be much more careful.
And it becomes a target itself.
It becomes a target itself, and you have to be slower. But Craig, 40 knots, that's 46 miles per hour on the water. Booking it. That's faster than most manned Navy patrol boats.
Right. I looked up this boat on YouTube in the testing, and it's maneuverable just like a regular boat, except there's nobody driving it. There's probably somebody in Washington, D.C. or on an aircraft carrier or battleship playing a video game with a 40-some foot boat.
It's like James Bond or something all of a sudden.
It's very James Bondian.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
The mission expansion here is enormous, and it almost tips our hand a little bit to kind of show what other toys we have. And I use that term euphemistically when I say toys, but they didn't design it for rescue, but it did rescue anyway. What else might these systems do that nobody planned for? Well, we don't know. And I'm sure that there are other things that they're not going to tell us.
Yes. Yeah, we can guess.
Yeah.
And this boat's nicknamed the Shadow Fox.
I mean,
because
that's
it can
intimidating.
operate at night and it's stealthy like a fox. And I mean, you can see it's a stealth boat anyway. But
Well,
man,
and it's being controlled remotely, and it's finding the guys in the water, knows when to pull up to them, lets them jump on, and then takes them off. It's just, I mean,
yeah,
to understand this, why an Apache was even in those waters in the first place. Army AH-64 Apaches have been part of the U.S. effort to enforce the ongoing blockade of Iran and protect commercial shipping. Last month, Apaches and Navy MH-60 Seahawks destroyed 6 small Iranian boats. And we say small, these are fishing boats at this point. I mean, they don't have a navy anymore.
they're cruisers like what we see on Lake Cumberland.
Right. The Apache rescue is only the second known rescue of downed American airmen in the entire conflict. The first in April required over 100 special operations forces, Craig.
I've got the list.
Dozens of aircraft. You can go ahead and tell that list right now.
Okay, let me switch over. It was 64 fighter jets. It would be F-15s, 16s, F-22s, F-35s, and A-10s, you know, the Warthog.
Yeah.
48 refueling tankers, the big straddle tankers.
Right.
That we follow on the various flight radar 24 and stuff when you want to see an operation. 13 dedicated rescue aircraft, including the 60 HH-60 Jolly Green helicopter, big giant helicopters.
Yeah.
8 C-130s, which brought them in there. And then intelligence, jamming, drones, special operators, meaning, Delta Force,
right,
SEAL team kind of guys. So it was an amazing operation to get the F-16 pilot because of the terrain, which we'll talk about later, versus surface rescue. This opens up hope for our Navy beyond anything American has thought about until 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, and the other aspect of this is the blockade is still active. Trump confirmed it on Sunday. Then this happened. It stays until a final deal is reached. Oddly enough, President Trump said today that he believes we're 2 or 3 days away from a deal with Iran. I don't know what that means. I mean, I don't know what 2 or 3 days means in I don't know if that's biblical time or if we're talking real 2 or 3 days. But the American pilots are flying combat patrols over the strait every single day. The cost of this standoff is real, even on the days when both soldiers come home. When we come, and we have to understand that when things like this happen, that there are costs to it. Even if we didn't put out 100 assets, there was still a cost to this. But everyone returns home, and that's
minimal. Well, the mainstream media, when we rescued the second F-15 Eagle pilot after he climbed up that mountain, they were putting a dollar figure on it. And Secretary of War Hegseth said, don't matter what it costs, we're not leaving anybody behind. And especially, the reports, if it was their child, they would want the American military to spend every nickel they could to get them rescued too. Yeah. Except in this operation, it took a helicopter and it took a drone boat, an unmanned drone boat that was rethought, not retrofitted, but rethought in its use pattern.
And quickly, in real time. In real time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's exciting to see that our military is this flexible. Yeah. And they have the ability to rescue our soldiers in times of war.
Yeah. And it's good that we have people who are smart enough to do that. It's an incredible story.
And this economic boycott, is hurting Iran terribly. I think that was your original question.
Yeah.
And $400 million a day that they can't sell oil. They're running out of money to pay their IRGC soldiers, so they're abandoning. Tusi TV said that I think you said it yesterday that the Iranian citizens are taking over IRGC bases. So it's this is working. It's just like a siege on a castle back in the old England days.
Yep.
When you wanted to chase the king of that castle out, you just did a siege for a couple of years till they literally ran out of food and water.
Well, and for the first time yesterday, the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, actually said that they were forming the government. They were preparing a return, and that's the first time that ever happened. It makes you think that something is afoot, that there is a plan at this point. We do know that IRGC individuals have been either captured or killed, and by citizens. It appears that the citizens are now kind of rising up now that they have internet access again to be able to see what's really happening. But what an incredible story to start off the show with. 2 Americans alive because of technology that didn't exist 3 years ago, Craig. I
Right.
mean, it
Yeah.
literally didn't exist 3 years ago.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's exciting as can be.
it really is. If nothing else, the fact that you have 2 American soldiers that otherwise would have probably perished because
Yeah.
of this just a few years ago. We're going to stay in Washington now and shift to a story that's going to make a lot of people do a double take because this morning the Justice Department is accusing another federal agency, one of its own, of breaking the law. The agency is the EEOC. The allegation is that it pressured employers to make race-based hiring decisions, and the implications ripple out to every single employer in the United States. So let's get into that. Here's a sentence you do not hear very often in American law. The Department of Justice has accused another federal agency of breaking the law. Specifically, the Justice Department accused the EEOC of violating civil rights laws by issuing guidelines that effectively pressured employers to make race-based considerations in hiring and promotions. The EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is the agency created by Congress in 1964, specifically to enforce federal civil rights laws in the workplace. It is essentially the referee. It is the cop on the beat, the institution that companies across America must answer to when discrimination complaints are filed. And today, the DOJ is saying that agency itself, through its own guidelines, broke the very laws it was created to enforce. Craig, when in American history, have we seen anything like this? The Department of Justice accusing a federal enforcement agency of violating the laws it was created to protect.
Well, I'm wondering if it's like the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah.
They're justifying their existence by funding KKK organizations and other hate groups across America. Is the EEOC doing the same thing to justify their existence?
Well,
I mean, they got to, if America's progressing along like we think they are, corporate America's getting all their, I think it's EGC scores or EG, whichever one it is, environment, something in government. I forget what the C stands for. But if we've made all that progress, then eventually you're not going to need the EEOC. So they got to justify their existence. So they just changed the game plan.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing about this is that it's not necessarily that they did it like yesterday. What they're accused of doing is for years under previous administrations, the EEOC issued guidance and conciliation agreements that effectively encouraged and in some cases required and punished employers if they didn't to take race and sex into account when making hiring and promotion decisions. The framework was DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the idea was that if your workforce didn't look diverse enough, you needed to fix that. The DOJ is now saying those very guidelines, the one the EEOC used for years as its enforcement playbook, improperly greenlit race and sex discrimination itself. The current administration's position is clear. Employment actions motivated, even in part, by an individual's race, whether white or black, constitute unlawful discrimination. Full stop. That's it. No exceptions for diversity goals and no exceptions for workforce balancing. And the legal foundation here is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the same law that prohibits race discrimination in the workplace. Craig, the DOJ's argument is actually fairly more nuanced than it looks. They're not saying the old EEOC was evil. They're saying it was operating under a legal framework that the Supreme Court has since moved away from, particularly after the 2023 Students for Fair Admissions decision. So where do you...
Was that the one where the Chinese students were kept out of Harvard?
Yes.
Even though they scored the top scores?
Right.
Okay.
And now you're a business owner, I'm a business owner. Where do you come down on this legal argument of forced hirings and promotions based upon race and sex for a purpose?
I believe companies they're going to continue building a diverse workforce because it just makes them better. But now they don't have the thumb of federal government saying X percentage of your employees got to be this, X percentage of your employees got to be that. So now allow our employees are diverse, because if you're not diverse in your company, you're going to fail. And so this will allow them to hire the best of the best that will help their company succeed and provide more jobs across Frankfort, Franklin County, Kentucky, and America. So it's relieving some of the red tape, I think, and getting rid of the pressure of the federal government looking over your shoulder and making you wonder every time you hire somebody. Because I remember in state government, when I had to hire somebody, and I picked this Asian guy from California that was just spectacular, but he was based in California, so I know he wasn't going to come work for us.
Right.
But that met the requirements. They whispered in my ear that we had to select when we picked our top 5.
Right. Well, here's what I want employers to understand and listen to right here. This is important. For years, companies were told by the federal government to build DEI programs. They spent billions with a B doing it in compliance with official guidance. And in some companies, built huge areas, big areas. And now the DOJ is saying that that guidance itself was illegal. Those companies followed the rules and are being told the rules were wrong. That's now difficult, and it could cause some confusion. The accusation against the EEOC's own guidelines is part of a sweeping enforcement campaign. In March 2026, the EEOC settled a $500,000 agreement with Planned Parenthood of Illinois, finding they had segregated employees by race in mandatory weekly racial affinity caucus meetings and subjected white employees to harassment through DEI trainings. The EEOC moved against Nike, alleging a pattern of disparate treatment against white employees and applicants, and subpoenaed records related to their DEI hiring quotas and diversity targets. And in May, the EEOC filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. You can't make this up. Yeah. Alleging that the company violated federal law by passing over a white male employee for promotion because of his race and gender. The EEOC chair said no one is above the law, including elite institutions. There is no such thing as reverse discrimination. All race or discrimination is equally unlawful. Craig, Planned Parenthood, Nike, the New York Times, some of the most prominent institutions in the country, longest standing, some of the biggest businesses. The EEOC chair is saying all race-based employment decisions are equally unlawful, regardless of who benefits. How do you think American employers now are processing that message as they're receiving it right now?
Well, like we was talking about before, it's the ESG score was a corporate score that led some, I guess, the EEOC to grant them some awards or give them some slack or something. But it's environmental, social, and governance. It's kind of like the citizen score that China has now, that if you're not communist enough, they can knock on your door at 3:00 in the morning and pull you out by your britches and do whatever they do over there, make you disappear or something. Yep. But still, a company wants to succeed no matter what. We're still a capitalist country. You're going to hire the best people that will advance your company, keep it alive, and keep all your fellow employees working. So, like I said before, this just takes the thumb of the federal government off their backs, and they're still going to hire the best, whoever they are, regardless of race.
They should now. But what I will also say is there is a whole area of business right now that has sprung up, a large corporate sector that is just DEI entities. Like there's
companies,
there's one company called Broadfield. They do environmental and corporate governance, and essentially their whole business plan is to help your company meet these DEI requirements.
Plant enough trees around your new building.
Right.
Based on the number of trees and the flyers and crap you put around your building that does nothing to advance your building. And a lot of companies are going away from that. I think our own planning and zoning new code is going away from requiring trees and flyers and all that decorative stuff on the outside because it's stopping companies coming here.
Well, and as a part of that, there's also that social impact part of it where they say you have to have a certain workforce that looks like this, and you have to hire certain people to do this, and maybe you don't, and maybe you aren't hiring the best possible applicants for a job because they're telling you have to do this so that you have this, ECG score that you have to get. And I agree, Alvy. You make an excellent point. The hypocrisy is just rampant throughout some of these. I'll even say it. Woke companies. They say that we have all of these particular scores and we do all these things and we're all this. And you have kids making in sweatshops.
All you got to do is dive in behind the headlines, and you can see that a lot of the stuff we purchase here is made by people that are getting paid $2 a day.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not made in America, is because maximizing profit. But then they scold us, U.S. citizens, for not doing something. But when you dig into that company, things change.
Yeah.
Opinions change.
And I think they will continue to change. Even those companies who were doing it so that they could virtue signal, to other companies, I think at this point they're starting to pull back on it too, because if you can save money for your stockholders and not spend money in these DEI areas, they're going to do it. It's going to be the first thing that they cut, whether we want to admit it or not.
And corporations, they donate money back to their communities. So if they've got less federal oversight and less federal requirements, they can help out their local communities more. I believe they can do that. I believe most will.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you. One of the things that is interesting is there is a remarkable argument being made by Northwestern Mutual in one of their responses. They said the DEI programs being investigated were, until recently, not only endorsed, but in many instances demanded by the very same federal agency that's now investigating them. The same agency told us.
Say that part again. Say that part again.
So the DEI, so Northwestern Mutual is saying the DEI programs being investigated were, until recently, not only endorsed, but in many instances demanded by the very federal agency now investigating them for them. So you kind of have your head on a swivel at this point.
Right. It's SPLC. It's SPLC funding KKK and other nationalist groups. And I think it's just you're creating controversy to justify your existence. And these people, they've made their whole life out of pushing this stuff. Now that America has changed, there's less a need for them. So now they got to create their own controversy.
Well, and one of the great Ronald Reagan quotes of all time was one of the scariest sentences in the English language is
7 words.
We're here from the government.
We're here to help.
Yeah,
we're here from the government. We're here to help.
Yeah, and that is something that I think people don't understand, the amount of red tape, even with the federal government. And then you get into places like California. My gosh, we could talk about that for an hour and a half on its own. The red tape that you have just to put up a mailbox, is just ridiculous. Right. The environmental.
Well, remember the San Francisco outdoor toilet with 2 doors? Cost $2.1 million and took 5 years to build.
Yeah. So
$2.1 million for a bathroom.
And there's a reason that it costs that much, because you have to justify the existence of these very, agencies.
Guess who moved into it so nobody could use it?
Right.
Homeless people.
But at the same time, you have a situation where on your local levels, you talked about San Francisco, but even in small places like here in Central Kentucky, you have people who are wanting to build and wanting to develop and do everything. And you have some cities who burden you with so much red tape just to get things done that a lot of people are like, either say, forget it, I'll move on to another city, or they say, fine me. I'm not going to follow your rule anyway, so just fine me.
Well,
and
there's nobody to check up to make sure
enforcement
that you follow the rules. Yeah, there's no enforcement. We talked about today in the DIG meeting.
Yeah.
You can tell them all you want to do, but there's no enforcement to make sure you do it.
1 enforcement or 2 enforcement officers in the whole city for code ordinances. It doesn't work. And so, but if you have so many things on the books, it's a violation of the law, technically, yes. But you also don't have the ability to enforce it because there's not enough manpower. And in some places, that's when they fine you to death and everything so that they can get more enforcement officers. And then
what happens then? Company says, well, I'll just pull up stakes. We'll get rid of 6,000 jobs and we'll go to the next county over and let them have all the money.
I'll go to Georgetown.
We had that happen here.
We've had it happen multiple times. The garage door company here in town.
We lost 40-some thousand $1,000 a year jobs.
Good paying jobs. And I'm not going to deal with all the nonsense here. We'll just move on. There's a long story I can tell you someday about Country Boy Brewing. Should have been here in Frankfurt. And
that's what I heard, but I don't know all the behind. But yeah, you can tell me about it later.
Well, we've been covering federal enforcement, legal frameworks, and the machinery of Washington this morning. Now we're going to come back to the state of Maine, Craig, one of your favorite stories.
That's all over. Well, it's election day today, isn't it?
It's election day today, and today there was a bombshell dropped on Graham Platner. His previous, one of his campaign workers, one of the head of his campaign, from a woman inside the Platner campaign who believed in him, who left a good job to work for him, and who is now saying, in her own words, in the Washington Post this morning, he should not be a U.S. senator. So let's get right into that. Genevieve McDonald is a former state representative and the former political director for Graham Platner's Democratic Senate primary campaign. She joined it in August 2025, so recently when he started his campaign, leaving a senior policy advisor position at a government relations firm to do it because she believed she and Platner shared the same goal, fighting for the working people of Maine. On Monday evening, the eve of today's primary, she published a Washington Post op-ed titled, "I know firsthand why Graham Platner shouldn't be a U.S. senator." That's
brutal.
Her central verdict is Graham Platner is not someone who would be good for Maine or for the country. And she wrote, quote, "I quit the campaign in October, disturbed by what I learned about the candidate and concerned about his potential impact on the Democrat Party's prospects in my home state. This is not an opposition researcher. This is not a Republican operative. This is a woman who left a good job, believed in the candidate, worked for him, and is now telling her fellow Maine voters on the morning of their primary, do not vote for him." Craig, It's primary day. The polls are open. Every Maine Democrat is waking up to a Washington Post op-ed. They're in the Northeast. That's a common newspaper that they see. From the very woman who ran the campaign. It's actually in the, I believe I looked on the Banger news site today, and it's on there as well. It's timing wise. What does this do to a candidate on election day? Does it even matter at this point?
No, probably not. And the thing that makes it legit is she left a high paying job to, I believe, volunteering for free to work on this campaign because
they had no money to start with.
Yeah.
They had no
same belief system. She believed in him. And, I still say Susan Collins is a rhino. I don't even know why they're trying. I don't know why they're trying to do this, but Chuck Schumer, AOC, Hakeem Jeffries, all these people are supporting this guy, this Nazi tattoo wearing, woman abusing, minority abusing verbally candidate.
They would sacrifice their own beliefs just for power.
Chuck Schumer would. Chuck Schumer would. And Sonny Hostin on The View said she would hold her nose. She listed all the bad things about this guy.
The hypocrisy.
And he goes, I will hold my nose to cast a vote for this guy.
Just so Democrats can be in power.
And she spent 2 minutes talking about all the bad stuff about him that's legit. I mean, he's got a SS Nazi tattoo on his chest.
Yeah.
And they accuse other people of being Nazis or fascists. This guy literally has an 18-year-old tattoo.
It's a death squad tattoo.
Death squad. And he doesn't remove it.
No, he just covered it.
And says there's not enough laser removal companies in Maine. Well, he's flying all over the damn country to get it done.
Flying to Boston.
But he just covered it up. So it's still there. It's not gone. It's still there. And then it just come out a little while ago on Will Kane's show that, he's an oyster farmer.
Yeah.
Well, last year his tax returns showed he made $5,000 for the whole year. And his company's worth between $50,000 and $100,000. So I don't know how many oysters it takes to make 5,000, but you can't live on $5,000 even in
Sounds
Maine.
like we might have another issue like we had up in Minnesota, where Ilhan Omar said that she was a multimillionaire, and then she was,
she went from negative 75. Yeah, she went from negative 75,000 entering Congress to 30 million, and then makes a typo. And of course, she doesn't get 32 felonies on her.
Yeah.
They just kind of wash it under the rug and say she made a mistake on her paperwork that she signed.
The title of the piece, Craig, is "I know firsthand why Graham Platner shouldn't be a U.S. senator." That is a clear condemnation, and if it doesn't affect him moving on in the primary, this is from someone who was on the inside, the people closest to this candidate. What does that pattern tell you, and will it now? For the first time Sunday night, I saw that they were in a statistical tie, him and Susan Collins, in the polling. So
for the general
election. Now, if Susan Collins is tied in the general election come
He's
November,
beat.
she wins by double digits. It happens every year.
Right.
So this is
Yep. She's always behind until election day.
devastating not only for Graham Platner, but this could be devastating for the Democrat Party if they were trying to truly regain control of the Senate. I don't think the math is there, by the way.
Yeah, the math ain't mathing. And this is all Schumer cares about is getting control of the Senate, and all Hakeem Jeffries cares about, bar the candidates like in Texas 35 that wants to castrate all these people. They don't care. They just want the number. They don't want what's better for America. They just want the number. And Chuck Schumer was interviewed yesterday, and he said, yes, I still support him. And we're going to beat Senator Collins and take control of the Senate.
Well,
so that's just telling you that it's about the power. It's not about nothing else. We'll elect anybody as long as we can get 51 senators.
Now, the interesting thing and why I think this will be interesting come November, and why it's the additional reason it's bad for the Democrat Party is because of that very thing. McDonald did not just repeat what we already knew. She added specifically new allegation that goes directly to Platner's central defense. Platner has maintained throughout the entire campaign that he did not know for nearly 2 decades that the tattoo on his chest was a Nazi Totenkopf symbol, which is the Nazi death squad symbol.
It's the people that killed the Jews.
McDonald said Platner warned her in September that he had a problematic tattoo that might raise questions, but dismissed it as merely a, quote, military thing. I believed him, she wrote. She no longer does. McDonald slammed the campaign's feigned ignorance of the tattoo as appalling, and her allegation did not stand alone. Former girlfriend Lindsay Fifield had already provided text messages to CNN showing she told friends in August 2025, before Platner claimed to know the symbol's meaning, that he has a Nazi tattoo on his chest and that it's a Totenkopf. Fifield also said that when they dated, Platner would refer to it as his My Totenkopf and joke about being a Nazi tattoo. And McDonald noted he is a self-described military history buff. So either he's the worst history buff in the history ever, or he's just a liar.
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds to look it up and see that it's everybody keeps saying Nazi, but I think the SS is worse than a Nazi. So I always refer to it as an SS tattoo because those were the one in the gas chambers that were eliminating, killing, murdering all the Jews. So it's even worse than a Nazi tattoo, but Chuck Schumer don't care. AOC don't care. Hakeem don't care. They just want control.
The other sneaky thing in this entire thing that gets lost a lot, Craig, is that the tattoo allegation is the headline. And here's something that's a little more interesting. There are other details beneath that are equally damning. McDonald wrote that after resigning, she was offered $15,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement. She turned it down. There's also this detail. A top aide to Platner's campaign sent a warning through an intermediary to McDonald, threatening that she would face accusations if she continued speaking out. She kept speaking. That's the op-ed you read this morning, and McDonald's central accusation is that Platner exhibits a pattern of dishonest behavior that is impossible to ignore. She wrote, quote, despite being exposed by a series of scandals beginning last October, he kept assuring voters in the Democratic Party that there were no more skeletons in his closet. Then more emerged. Then the latest in recent days have involved former girlfriends, serious accusations of physical mistreatment. She's also closed with a political lifeline for Democrats. Quote, if Platner wins the nomination but later withdraws, Maine Democrats can hold a convention and choose a different nominee. It's like a lifeline. She's saying, hey, even if you do this,
he's not going to withdraw. He won't
I've
withdraw.
seen this guy too much. His ego is not going to let him.
Yeah.
But Craig, the $15,000 to sign an NDA and she turned it down, I think that gives her credibility. And then they threaten her and she still talks about it. More credibility, I think.
So I've got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
When do you think she sent the op-ed in? Because this would have been for Janet Mills, the governor of Maine, that still got her name on the ballot. If this had been sent in 2 weeks ago, I think it would have made a difference.
I agree.
But go on the morning of Election Day, I'm not so sure because probably 80% of the people won't see it or know about it.
Well, and if they're
80% of the
And
Maine
if
voters.
they're like California, they've already voted, right? You gotta wait.
Well, I don't know what their early voting
I don't
period is.
either.
I don't know if it's 30 days like California, 29 days plus election days, so 30 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
It takes guts, which she did. I question the timing. I think that honestly, I think she doesn't want Platner, and nobody in Maine wants Mills. She's an incredibly unpopular governor, even in her own state. Trump, really called her out in the White House, which she lost a bunch of support after that. But
yeah,
but I think the whole reason behind the timing is for what she said exactly. I don't like Platner. I don't like Mills. Take it out of the hands of the voters. You can have a convention. We can nominate somebody else that might have a shot. I don't think she wants either one of them to win, and I think that's
right.
why.
I mean, it'll never happen.
No,
I
he's
mean,
not going to resign.
she made a mistake leaving her good job to go volunteer with him. She instead of investigating him herself before and sitting down with the candidate and saying, "Hey, is this true or is this not true? You and I've been through that. What kind of baggage are you bringing to the campaign? We need to know it all to be prepared." And this guy's got, his Reddit posts, his fellow soldiers, his comments from his girlfriends, from his coworkers. Yet Chuck Schumer still endorses him. The minority leader of the U.S. Senate still endorses him.
I would hope that if the shoe was on the other foot, if something in Kentucky, a senator or a congressman or something major came out, that the Republican Party of Kentucky would have the guts to say, no, thanks. We don't want that. Now, I understand the arguments that some people may have that, hey, same thing happened with Trump. Hey, that's the difference, is that in these particular cases, we were able to make that decision and the voters chose knowing that information.
Right. And he had 32 paperwork felonies.
32 paperwork.
Business felonies where he signed the same documents, except on a much grander scale because his companies are so much bigger, that AOC did. But the voters still voted for him, knowing, because his life has been lived in front of a camera forever. And so the voters knew. But if Trump did something bad, something illegal, throw his ass in jail. I don't care. I'm tired of corrupt politicians, not just where both sides call each other corrupt, but if it's proven corrupt, like our Representative Comer today has called for a Justice Department investigation of A.G. Ellis and Governor Walz in Minnesota. If they can prove something, them boys are going to jail.
Yeah.
But you got to prove it, because this is still the United States of America.
Now, our bottom line, and what we want to be clear about, is we have tried to be fair at every step of the Platner story. We noted when one accuser had Republican ties. We noted Platner consistently denies the most serious allegations, but the people who believed him, who gave up other opportunities to stand next to him, keep walking away. And one of them just wrote it all down in the Washington Post on a primary morning under her own name, turning down $15,000 to do it. Maine voters are deciding right now, and that's something that we have to be clear about, is these are just the accusations, and people are still supporting them, and that's fine that they are. It's their absolute right to do it, and the people will have to make a decision of whether they will vote for them or not.
And we'll find out. I don't think it'll take 30 days.
30 days in Maine. No.
We might know by 11 o'clock tonight, Eastern
I think
time.
we will. We might know before this show's over. I doubt it, but
we might not. We might know by 7 o'clock.
We've covered war and technology, federal enforcement, a political campaign, and a meltdown. Now we are going to talk about something that is not political drama. It's not opinion. It's math. Because this morning, the Social Security Administration released its annual trustees report, and the numbers are very alarming. If you are retired, Craig, if you are planning to retire, Kyle, if you have a parent who depends on Social Security, which I do, or if you are a working American who has been paying into the system your entire career, this story is absolutely for you right now. The Social Security Trustees Report released this morning said the program is on track to become insolvent. That means they're out of money by the end of 2032. That is 6 years from now, when the program's 71 million beneficiaries will face a 22% automatic cut in their monthly checks. Insolvent does not mean Social Security stops paying. It means the trust fund runs dry. And at that point, there would only be enough incoming money to pay 78% of scheduled benefits. The average monthly retirement benefit in 2026 is $2,071. A 22% cut would slice that roughly $455 off that check every single month. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget puts the average monthly cut at about $500 in reality. And that's more than average. That is more than that is more than the average retired household spends on groceries in a month. This is the first trustees report to account for Trump 2.0 policies, and the news is worse than last year, one full year worse. The trustees were signed by Trump's own cabinet members, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Acting Labor Secretary Keith Sonderling, HHS Secretary RFK Jr., and Social Security Commissioner Frank Bisignano.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah. This is the government's own accounting of its own programs. Craig, let me put it in human terms. A retired person in Kentucky getting $2,071 a month wakes up in late 2032. The check is now $1,616. No warning, no phase-in, automatic, $455. That's your groceries. That's a prescription. That's a utility bill. Who gets hurt worse by a cut like that?
Well, obviously, the people that depend on Social Security as their sole form of income. They have no retirement, nothing else. They're on Medicare, and they got this. And drugs are so ridiculously expensive. But hopefully that'll get worked away with that deal with Trump and Mark Cuban on their new health thing and their 1,100 drugs they've got on there that are $15 over wholesale cost. Hopefully that'll work. But I had to wait till I was 67 to draw my Social Security because I wanted to get the maximum because I knew down the road there's a potential for it going out. But now the Social Security Trust Fund is what it's actually called. And the federal government owes $2.3 trillion to the Social Security Trust Fund. If it had that money, we wouldn't even be discussing this. But in the 80s and 90s, when the Social Security Trust Fund had more than 100% solvency, like 123, 134% solvency, the politicians changed the rules, and now they could start pulling Social Security Trust Funds out for roads, for military, for healthcare, for anything they wanted. And they would put treasury bonds forward that don't come due for 30 years. So now it's potentially going to drop from 100% to 75% going to the people that paid into it for 30, 40, and 50 years. So it's not fair at all. And now to pay your Social Security benefits, the federal government has to raise your taxes to pay benefits that my age group, has been paying on for 40 years. So it's way worse than this headline talks about.
And I think the interesting thing about that is a lot of people who hear this go, wait a second, that's my money. It's not. It's not your money. Right. The way that the Social Security system works, and I understand it's a controversial thing to say, but the way Social Security works is it is a Ponzi scheme. And that's, I'm not saying that it's illegal,
100%.
But what it is I am putting in money, and then those who are eligible right now are taking out my money. It's not my money. My money is not going into a savings account.
Plus the federal government is taking it out.
Plus the federal government can take it out and build roads, whatever they want. But or take a loan against it, which is what they've done, and they're just not repaying the loan. But the flip side of that is there is not an account with Kyle's name on it saying,
nope,
when you turn 65 or 67 and a half or whatever, or 70, you can have this amount of money right here. All it says is that I'm entitled to an amount of money. Doesn't say it's my money. It says I'm entitled to an amount of money that is in the fund, right? It's all that a Ponzi scheme is. If I don't receive my money and my investments back out of it, but I'm taking when other people have put in, then that is a Ponzi scheme. That's what it is. I'm not trying to be controversial with it, but
it's factual.
That's what it is.
Or another way to look at it's a pyramid scheme.
It is. And there are more people right now pulling out because of baby boomers, and there are fewer people in the workforce
putting in.
who are putting money in. This is the government's own trustees, Craig. That's the thing that is damning. For years, we have been told it's fine, we're going to fix it, it's not that big of a deal. But for the first time, I feel like somebody is coming in and they're saying it ain't fine, it's broke.
Yeah, it's less than 6 years away from not being 100% solved.
This is a bigger crisis. When they were talking 5 years ago and 25 years ago about the existential crisis that climate change was, and that the world was going to end in 15 years and all that stuff. Listen, if the Social Security Retirement Trust Fund is depleted by 2032, you are talking about a catastrophic financial situation in the United States, because it's not just the people who are taking the money, because then their children are going to have to help them. And if they don't have children, then our social services programs will have to help them. And you will have a collapse of the economy if this happens. So I think,
and you better hope you've been good to your kids.
Right. And if you haven't, shady pines, as they used to say.
Payback, baby.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the timeline being moved up, because last year's report projected 2033. Today says 2032. Three things drove that acceleration. First, the fertility rate was lowered to 1.75 children per woman from the prior assumption of 1.9. There are fewer babies being born today, means there are fewer workers paying into the system 20 years from now. Second, and by the way, that is one of the lowest birth rates that we've had in the last 200 years.
Right. Yeah. We're not replenishing ourselves.
We are absolutely not. Second, the estimated immigration is lower, meaning fewer workers paying into the system right now. Third, and that's just a fact, not Republican, not Democrat. That's just a fact.
And don't forget, small business owners, just like big businesses, your employee pays in with Medicare and Social Security 7.15%, and then we match it on the flip side.
Yes, we do.
So if they raise the dollar amount, if they raise the percentage up, the goods those companies produce will go up too. So bottom line, every American is going to end up paying more because the corporations will have to pay business.
Yep. Third, again, we tell facts here. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act signed on July 4th, 2025, it made permanent the 2017 tax cuts and added an extra break for seniors over 65, which reduced the taxation of Social Security benefits by approximately $30 billion per year. Yeah. $30 billion a year less coming in every year, and that money is being paid for in part by moving the insolvency date closer in time. So the Social Security,
helping the old people that are barely getting by today,
right,
is why they did that, because of the I don't know how much California and New York tax for Social Security, but it's a whole lot more than it is in Kentucky.
Yeah. Here's the honest tension here. Giving seniors a tax break on their Social Security benefits sounds great, and it was needed. It absolutely was needed, because you have to do that, because you're not giving an increase over the last several years. So you have to do something at this point. Nobody wants to tax grandma's retirement check, but the program's own trustees say that tax break is accelerating insolvency. So how do you square those two things at this point? What do we do to fix it if there is a fix?
Well, it's not political.
Right.
If it is, you want to go back to the .com boom of the 1990s under President Clinton, when America even the Kentucky State Employee Retirement Fund was well over 100%. Well, legislators, whether local or federal, they see all that extra money just sitting there drawing interest. We can put a park here so I can get reelected, or I can build a new water source, a water plant over here so I can get reelected. So it's what it all came down to. And now the birds have come home to roost.
They have.
Yeah. And we're going to pay the price. And like you noted, we're at 1.7 something percent on population replacement. Poland is paying, I think it's for after your third child, you pay 0 federal taxes the rest of your life. You get a break up through 1, 2, and 3. Other countries are paying their mothers to have babies, to have more babies, because they've got to replenish their workforce, and they're looking 20 and 30 years down the line. And so we're hurting. Japan is losing the most population because of birth replacement. they're not going to go away in 50 years like all the newspapers were saying a couple years ago. But still, it's a depletion that if your country wants to exist, have more babies. So people out there, have more babies.
Yeah, it is interesting that's something that we're saying. Yes, the problem with the big beautiful bill is that you added this. The other aspect is that you don't have enough people having babies, right? So that's something that both sides can agree that can be fixed. And the other part of this is the immigration piece. It's going to be politically charged because the argument from restrictionists is that illegal immigration costs the country money, and it does. And that is true in many categories. But today's trustees report shows that fewer immigrants, legal and otherwise, means fewer payroll taxes flowing into Social Security. But
If
what
they
that
were
also,
paying it in the first place.
but that also means that it should open up other jobs for American-born citizens. Whether it does or not, it should, and that's the other reality getting in there.
And you see this comment here.
Yep.
For my wife and I would bank us started drawing at 62, now 75, but worked until I was 73. Time to go back to work. Well, I'm 67. I'm not going to stop working because I know this is coming down the road. And if you've been reading anything, you know, it started out being solvent until 2045. Well, they keep backing it up. And I think under this administration, they finally dug into it, and the hard reality is smacking us in the face.
Well, and we've been told for years that this was going to happen, and now it is happening. I will say on that immigration aspect as well, breaking news right now, the House has passed a $70 billion immigration bill. It is headed to the president's desk for signature. This will handle all of the ICE funding that has been held up for, 10 months now? And it is anticipated that the president will sign it this evening or tomorrow.
That just came out now.
It just came out right now.
Okay, that's big.
Yeah, that will, and you make a good point as well.
Absolutely, we've been talking about this.
Yeah, problem is taking over a ton of job. AI is taking over a ton of jobs. We understand that. We get that, and there will have to be a shift. There's going to have to be a shift in how we, you're going to have to go to, if you go to school, if you go to college, you are going to have to get a degree that is a skilled degree, a STEM degree,
technology, engineering, and math.
right? Or go into a blue collar environment, position, that HVAC, plumbing, electricity, those things are still going to be done by, and there are not enough of them.
Yeah, I know plenty of guys that pulling 6 figures cutting grass.
Easy.
So it's white collar jobs are going to disappear. That's why I'm wearing yellow and Kyle's wearing black. We don't want our jobs to disappear.
That's
right.
But
they are going to disappear. Remember when Hillary Clinton told our coal miners in East Kentucky to learn how to code? Well, you don't need to learn how to code now. You type in and say, I want a program that does this, and you'll get your program back in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And it works with no bugs.
Yeah. There is no, and if you don't like the way it do, you just say, fix this.
Yeah. And Kyle and I play around with AI all the time, and so do a lot of my friends. A lot of young people are getting into it. But this is by 2030, America is going to be completely different. Between you got WAMO, WAMO, that's got a self-driving taxi service in Texas, in California, that's doing pretty well. You got fully autonomous semis running about 100-mile route back and forth between these. I think it's Frito-Lay. It's a Pepsi company, back and forth, and they're working on from somewhere in Southern California to Texas, driving driving the entire way because there are 80,000 semi drivers short. So if you don't have the workforce, they're going to figure out some way to make that job autonomous, and it doesn't matter what the job is; they will figure it out.
Yeah, and listen, AI is here. We have to embrace it, whether we like it or not.
AI and data centers.
We have to figure out how to coexist and use those to our benefit. Fighting it and try, this is not technology that you can just say, well, if I just ignore it, or we just say not in my backyard, it's going somewhere. And the fact of the matter is, everybody's on their phones, 24 hours a day, and all that information that you're asking Google for and all this other stuff, that's coming from somewhere. And the more information you're getting is more information that they're having to spit out. So we have to figure it out. But the impact of the trust fund that we're talking about with Social Security, the impact of the trust fund exhaustion cut does not hit all states equally. And that's what we were just talking about. Between 10% and 23% of each state's population would be affected. The hardest hit states by share of population, and you folks in Kentucky are not necessarily going to like that, but Maine at 22.9%, West Virginia at 22.4%, Vermont at 22%, Delaware at 21.1%, Montana sits at 21%. Kentucky, with its aging population and median income below the national average, sits squarely in the demographic profile that gets hit the hardest. In terms of economic damage as a share of GDP, West Virginia leads at 1.9%, followed by Mississippi, Vermont, South Carolina, and Maine, something they'll have to figure out.
Yeah, so it's not the poor states
Nope, it's
that
not
they
always
keep harping on. You listed just about every New England state.
Yep. Social Security provides the majority of income for 43% of seniors. The program keeps more Americans out of poverty than any other program in the country, and a 22% cut is not an inconvenience for these people. It is devastating for a lot of for a lot of Kentucky families. It's a poverty sentence. That's what it'll be.
And here just to show this one.
Yeah.
His son was laid off 11 years after what's a QA analyst, a quality assurance analyst.
Yep.
And that's the guy that makes sure the product is good before it's shipped off the next factory to be built. That's a pretty darn important job. And he just got automated away. In my son's factory, they're employing lasers more and more every day. But he took the route of being the guy that programs the lasers instead of being replaced by the lasers.
Yeah.
That measures the quality assurance before it goes into a car.
Yeah. The other thing that people need to understand, and thank you so much, by the way, for all of you who are commenting in the chat and always interacting with us. It means a ton to us. And even when you're not in the live chat afterwards, comment below and tell us, what your thoughts are on these stories. But here's what our listeners need to know, that this problem has been fixed before. It has been fixed. In 1983, Congress avoided across-the-board benefit reductions by enacting changes to the program, taxing benefits and gradually raising the retirement age. Very famously, Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, about as opposite as two politicians can get, imagine this happening, sat down and worked it out. Can you imagine Chuck Schumer and
in the Oval Office, if I remember right?
They did. And those changes extended solvency for more than 4 decades. What's concerning, said one fiscal policy expert, is that we've known about this problem for several decades, and they knew that was a temporary fix, and Congress has not done anything to address it, end quote. We have known since 1983. That's 43 years of knowing, and here we are, 6 years from insolvency. The longer the crisis waits, the more drastic the eventual fix has to be. There are proposals on the table: raise the retirement age above 67. We're living longer.
Which it is. It's playing. Mine was 67 years and 2 months.
Yeah. Raise or eliminate the payroll tax income gap so higher earners pay a little bit more. Some combination of both, or a phased in overtime approach. Something, you phase in both those over a period of time. But none of those are painless, but all of them are more manageable than a 22% automatic cut.
Yeah, I've got an idea.
Yeah, hit me with it.
I looked it up to try to remember when I was working in state government. Once you hit $90,000 annual salary, which I never did, but once you hit that 90,000, they stopped taking Social Security benefits out over. So
right,
say you're making 150, your Social Security payments end at 90,000, so you keep the rest of that money yourself over that next 60 grand. Well, It's since been raised up to $184,500. In big cities, Los Angeles, Seattle, New York, Chicago, that's not enough to live on, even though it sounds like a huge number in Kentucky. They ought to just take the cap off completely.
Well,
and make it you pay, so because every American is going to get Social Security, 100% that's got a job and pays into it, and maybe even some that don't. But why stop? Why have a cap on it? Because you're all going to benefit. I don't know why they don't take it up to unlimited. Whatever, every dollar you make, you pay Social Security on. That boat is all over Fox News. That thing, that drone boat, it's cool.
Yep.
But
So
that's my solution.
here's another thing that I would tell you. If you make $1 million, right? If you make $500,000, but if
Mhm.
you make that, you have to take your Social Security at some point.
At
They have
70. At
at
70.
you
I
have to
coulda
take it,
yeah, I
right?
coulda waited till 70. That's
Right.
correct.
But you have to take it. So there are millionaires right now who say, "I don't want my Social Security. I'm
Warren
making
Buffett is
yeah,
famous for saying it.
they don't give me my Social Security." Now, right now, I can tell you that I don't have the exact but there are tens of thousands of millionaires, tens of thousands
I'll look it up while you're talking.
millionaires receiving Social Security benefits right now. Think about that. Now, these people do not need their Social Security. So that right there is a ludicrous proposition that they have to take it, Craig. And so that
I'm
just
looking. This is unbelievable. Between 23.8 and 24 million adults in the United States with a net worth greater than $1 million. 24 million people that are millionaires that are drawing Social Security checks, and they don't want it.
right. So think about. I mean, that's billions of dollars right there. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
easy fix. That's an easy fix, and make it to where you. I don't really care. Give them a damn tax break. That as a charitable damn donation
Yeah.
that you didn't take your Social Security. La-di-da, don't care, right? Because that's just they're paying taxes anyway. But when it comes to Social Security,
And a
why
lot
are
of
we
taxes
giving millionaires $2,200 a month?
because it's the federal law.
It makes zero sense. I mean, and that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Let people waive it, and you get a $5,000 credit on your taxes. I don't care, but they don't care about that either. But most of them don't want the hassle of having to deal with it. And
Yeah.
so,
And doing that, taking the cap off, we'll get to the point. You can mark this down. We'll get to the point where the federal government is paying couples to have more children.
well, Trump already talked about it, and
he has,
and famously gave benefits to folks who had kids as well.
right. So
Our bottom, yeah,
it is 6 years away. That's
6 years.
nothing. That's one Senate term. That's seventh
COVID
grade.
was 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's seventh grade to your graduate high school. 6 years is not long.
We were just in COVID 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's when it started 6 years ago, and so you, like a good deed said, might have to go back to working.
Yeah.
But people call me a tightwad and say I don't spend money.
Or a tight one. We talked about that right before we went on the show.
Yeah. So this is why.
Yeah,
I know this is coming.
Yep.
And if they print more money to pay more checks, what does that do? It devalues the dollar, and inflation goes through the roof. So you can't win either way.
Our bottom line, and this is across the board, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, libertarian, independent, whatever. Talk to your congressman, call your senator, both of them, regardless of party. A lot of you are represented by people who are not your party. They are happy to talk to you. Trust me, they are happy to talk to you to find out what there can be a fix to. Tell them you saw the trustees report. Tell them you know what 2032 means. They will be impressed. Tell them you expect a plan. The only way this gets fixed is if the people in Washington believe the people back home, like here in Central Kentucky and across the country, are watching. We are watching. We need a plan, and if we don't have we've had plans for everything in the world that didn't matter, including saving the otters or whatever else.
Yeah,
and I like otters, by the way. But this is a true existential crisis
right.
in the economy of the United States.
You can take a humorous look, even though it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
AOC in 2019 predicted that the world would burn up by 2031 if we didn't do the Green New Deal. And of course, Al Gore has predicted that since since 1992 or 1993. He's predicted every 5 years the ice caps are going to melt. And so you better, this is serious stuff.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, this is serious.
And even if you're 22 years old right now or 25 years old right now, I have a daughter that's about to turn 24, and you think 6 years, I'll only be 30. I'm 40 years away from worried about Social
You
Security.
better be
You
planning.
don't think it's going to affect you? You are woefully mistaken. It will crush the economy
Yeah.
if Social Security becomes insolvent.
And you don't want to go from age 65 to 90 because, both my parents lived in the late 80s and my dad to 90. You don't want to live the last 20 years of your life eating beanie weenies and dog food because everything's gone up so much over the last 20 years. And I mean, we're kind of joking about it, but man, this is serious as a heart attack. This is really this is the worst news you can get.
It really is, and just once again to show that it's President Trump's own people who are saying we got to fix this.
Yeah.
We're not gassing anybody up. It needs to be fixed.
This has been pushed down the road for 20 years.
It has, and Trump's big beautiful bill added a little bit of weight to it as well. So there's got to be some corrections, and we know that with all big economic bills, you have to have corrections when you see how things are affected, and that's one that's going to have to be affected. I think that's going to just about do it for us today in our show here on Apex News Above the Noise. Anything you want, Craig, before we get out of here?
Well, you told me as we went on there that we're going to be off the rest of the week.
We are going to be off the rest of the week.
Business circumstances. So that's just to let everybody know that if breaking news comes in, maybe I'll run downstairs and do something, or Kyle can do it from his wherever he's at in America.
Yeah.
And we, especially if it's UK news.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We'll definitely come on there for that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because last night, Craig, I made a comment online. I got drug a little. You asked me a question and I said the wrong name. I got drug a little bit last night. It was a long day yesterday and a longer show. But Big Blue Nation, we have not forgot about you. Ryan Hampton is still a Wildcat. And what I mentioned last night, and you asked me, the number one player in the country, Marcus Spears Jr., is his cousin.
Right.
And that is the individual that UK is reaching out to as well. I understand with Mo Williams. That is Ryan Hampton's cousin.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to brief you on because I saw it on X just as we came on there.
It's quite all right. I mentioned the wrong name. I got drug a little bit last night. Fully reasonable. I deserve that and expected it. And we'll fix it and make sure we do better in the future. We talked a lot about a bunch of different things tonight. We started off with a pure American story when it came to American heroism. That was pretty awesome. Then we moved to the EEOC and how confusing and crazy that story is as well. And then, of course, we went to Maine, your favorite Senate campaign. And then we brought you to the Social Security Trustees Report, which is a major crisis. And Craig, as always, I appreciate you being here with me, my good friend, because I didn't say good.
Yeah.
I want to thank you.
Well, let me. I just remember this.
Okay.
This is a local thing.
Okay.
Target is scheduled. Our Target in our shopping center is scheduled to open July 21.
Yep.
For people that live in the Frankfort and Central Kentucky area, we're going to have the largest Target in Kentucky in Frankfort, and then BJ's Wholesale Warehouse. We
are a horse country, but
Warehouse is scheduled to open up in I think the middle of September. It's going to be late September, early October. So those are two big things coming for us, for the local viewers. If we, and so I just want to get that. I learned that today.
If we get any news about Big Blue Nation over the next few days, we will obviously jump in. And if not, we will put a post out on YouTube and also our social media. Craig, we have some exciting news coming up. We're not ready to release it yet, but it will be game changer for all of those who have been watching us for the last 3 months. We are one of the fastest growing YouTube channels and one of the fastest growing podcasts across the country, across all social medias. But we have big news coming up. Stick with us. It will change the way that you receive news. It will be a very big deal. We're really excited about it, and hopefully
it will be current.
Yes, a very current news, and hopefully we will have that news in the next week or so, and when those things will go live. To everybody listening, whether you found us on YouTube or anywhere else, we greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe subscribe to the show so that other people can find it as well. We understand that you could spend your time anywhere and you spend it with us on a Tuesday night. That means a lot to us. One last thing before we go. There are going to be storms in central Kentucky tonight. We know that. We have received over 3.5 inches just today on the east side.
3.36 in my backyard.
3.36 in yours, 3.5 here at Creekside Studios at the Yak Shack.
That got in that pool, didn't
it? It's close. We're getting close. But we expect we're gonna have to move some furniture. I will tell you that, and expect another 2 to 3 inches of rain potentially over the evening. So make sure that you batten down the hatches, do what you need to do to stay safe. That matters to us as well, and be prepared because while it may not be raining right now outside, it is coming tonight, and of course, it always comes in the middle of the night. So,
no doubt, yeah.
Take care of yourself. Share this episode with anybody else who needs to be above the noise because right now there is a lot of noise, Craig. And until next time, stay informed, stay sharp, and stay above the noise. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you.